Hello, welcome back to another stream. This is stream 20, I think, of what day are we on? We're on day 13 of building this forum with Hesura and GraphQL. Today I'm joined by Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello. Hello, Jamie.
So
Thanks for having me on.
no problem. Glad you could be here. I thought we'd share the screen and maybe share some code and do some kind of programming, pair programming. And how much have you seen of this? Have you seen anything at all yet, or should I go over what I've been building?
I've been following along. I've seen the odd stream. You've shared some of the source code. But yeah, I think it'd be good to just have a quick overview.
Yeah, cool. So obviously we started out at the beginning of October building this forum software, primarily because when I first started out, a forum was what I built to learn PHP. So I thought it'd be quite fitting, sort of 15 years later, maybe it's more than that, to build it again, but with modern tools. Build them with Jamstack tools. Build them with JavaScript and a bunch of APIs, and we're going to be using
Mhm.
Markdown for the markup, translating that to markup. So, this is the index view. At the moment, it just shows recent activity. It would be good to kind of have a category view so you can see all of the categories and child categories of stuff. So we can go into a category on the forum. So say this is a general category. We've then got these kind of pinned threads at the top, and then we've got other threads below, and then we've got this feedback here is actually a sub forum. We haven't got around to designing that, but you can click to view the subcategory, and that was kind of added on a stream by a comment. Somebody said, "Can we do sub forums?" So I just kind of explored how quickly it would be to add that, and it was really just a case of adding a relationship in the DB, and then the rest of it just kind of worked because of the way we've kind of built the components and stuff. So that's quite nice. We've got like a very basic edit profile, so at the moment you can just kind of change your name, and then we've got a post thread, and you can choose what category you want or subcategory. We've got a page for today's posts. There's no posts today. Then we've got kind of these pages for answered and unanswered posts. Obviously, I've not styled any of this stuff yet, but the header, I'm thinking we display some kind of drop down to go between categories, and then some other icon here to switch between these kind of other pages for posts. The way that we filter them. So if we click
Some
on
kind
maybe,
of some badge,
yeah,
like a badge count on the unanswered and answered posts as
yeah,
well.
that'd be
Be
cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
Use the aggregate count.
yeah, that'd be nice. We could do that, and fairly straightforward to do actually, based on the tools we're using in the background. So what else we got? This is kind of the thread view, so we can view messages. We can like and unlike these messages,
Nice.
which is good. We can lock threads, so this thread's locked. It removes the reply box. I can unlock it, adds the reply box back. I can mark it as answered, so when I go to answered post, it'll show there. And obviously I can mark it as unanswered, and I can delete threads. I can also edit posts as well, so I can go in here and click reply, and we'll change the text and stuff of that, but you'll see that all of this updates as well, that it was edited today. So we're kind of making good progress. We've got some kind of just placeholder avatars because I haven't got to that yet. And yeah, it's kind of taking shape, which is quite cool.
Very nice.
Just little things as well. Like here, we've got like, this is a thread. So NoTrab replied, but then NoTrab posted. So this one here has got no replies, so it doesn't make sense to use the word replied. So it's just little details like that that now kind of building more, I'm kind of adding in and just trying to polish it up. So yeah, I thought today it would be good to create a members list. And actually the stream says markdown to MDX. I didn't change that.
All right. I've
But
just seen that. Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I'll rename it afterwards. But yeah, we'll maybe create the members list today. So essentially what I would like to do is put a button in the nav here, go into members, then we just make a request to get all members. So I'll dive into the code and show you what's going on there. Let me just collapse everything out. And for anyone else that's following along, I did move some of the SVGs into a folder. I just gave them some generic names for now, and I've imported those where they are being used. The only one I haven't created a SVG file for is the avatar, because I'm wanting to remove that with the actual image soon. Yeah, so let me just take you on a tour of the way that the pages are working. We're using Hasura in the background, and we use this Hasura user client. And in this Hasura user client, essentially, we have to invoke this function every time we want to use it. So it'll get the token for the user from local storage if they're logged in. And I couldn't really think of a better way to do this, handle this behavior. So unfortunately, we have to invoke this function every time. Because if I moved this outside and just returned a new GraphQL client, that would never it would never reinstantiate the value there. You'd have to hard refresh after login, so it was a bit annoying. So I've just made it a function, and that works a lot better. And then we've got this admin client, and that just passes a header for the admin secret, and this is for login and register, because I get and set some secured fields that users can't get. So that is
like permissions and stuff.
Yes.
Is that handled separately?
Yeah, the admin stuff here. This bypasses permissions because it's got this admin secret.
Yeah.
So this is raw access. Then inside of permissions in Hasura, basically, a guest can select just the ID, name, last seen, and last seen URL. And a user, they can also select those. But a guest can't update any user, but a user, so the JWT contains the user role, and if that user role is, in this case, user, then the column update permissions change. They can update these, and then the condition, we just check to see whether or not the ID of that record is the ID that we're passing through in the JWT. So it's kind of how we secure that field down from outside, access and mutations and stuff. So it's quite good in that respect. And that goes for the same as the other tables we've got. Threads and posts, they all have their permissions. So pretty much everyone can select, but only a user can insert. And again, they can only insert posts where the author ID is themselves. So I couldn't post on your behalf. And I can pretty much get everything. We've got some presets as well. So we create the relationship based on the current user that's logged in. So I don't need to pass user ID in my mutation. It will get that from the JWT, which is quite nice. I kind of just simplifies things a lot, which is good. So that's kind of how things are working. And in the users table, we've got all of our users, and I just want to create a members page for those users. So
nice.
I'm trying to think what could we show on the users page. I'm thinking right now we've only got really the name and a fake avatar we can show for now, like a placeholder.
Is there any kind of timestamps available on the user? Like when they signed up, when they were last registered? Is that?
Yeah.
Can we query for that?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Kind of show, I guess, when they joined, and when they were last online. If they're online, if it's within a certain, within the past 5 minutes, it could kind of be deemed as online. Show a little green light.
Yeah.
I guess just kind of query that data now, and then we can do some stuff with some date functions to figure out the kind of time lapsed since then.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to my header. It looks beautiful, my header.
Is this you? Yeah, right. So it's all Tailwind CSS.
Yeah. let's make a members because it's shorter. Let's go to members, and then we've got a link up here to members. So let's go ahead.
So do you have your own? Do members have profile pages too?
Not at the moment, no. That would be good to do.
Yeah.
But right now, no. What I want, and I'm waiting for Tailwind, the headless UI. I'm waiting for some kind of popover component for this. So when you hover over here, it will show how many posts the user has, when they joined, a bit more info there, which would be good.
Yeah, I'm using the headless UI React package in a personal project and also in a couple of Graph CMS projects.
And
pretty nice.
Yeah, it looks nice. I did actually import it in one of these streams, but I didn't go as far as doing all the styling.
Right, well, that's the thing. You can kind of style it as you want. The headless UI stuff is that it's headless. It's just kind of exporting some nice accessible components with kind of the base primitives, and then you can kind of add the UI as you want. And obviously they're designed to work better with Tailwind UI or Tailwind CSS, but you can kind of add whatever CSS you want, really.
Nice, okay.
They're at like, I think they're at like 4 or 5 components now. The menu stuff's pretty nice.
Yeah, I imported it, and the one thing that I didn't do, well, we didn't style it, we just had it working. It kind of just shows and hides stuff. And I think at the time, I just didn't want to go through the whole process of, creating the relative, the absolute box, and positioning all of that.
Right.
Does the library help anything? Because obviously there's libraries around pinning it on a certain area and removing it. Does the library take care of that, or are you still faced with that problem on, say it is pinned to the right and I shrunk my browser, it may look better pinned to the bottom or whatever. Will it take care of that or not?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's so you kind of, the onus is on you to style it.
Right. Okay.
They just kind of providing these primitives and these components that are mostly focused on accessibility and usability and stuff. So what you get, for example, if you use the menu, it's like a drop down component, but you get like clicking on off screen will close the menu. It'll close on transition between routes. It'll close with the escape key. So some nice base primitives. It's all accessible. So you've got the correct ARIA tags as well. You can keyboard navigation. Okay. So you get all that for free, and you can just kind of style it as you want, essentially, including the positioning.
Yeah, I quite like the Tailwind guys are quite hot on the accessibility stuff that, I hold my hands up that I often forget to implement half the time.
Right.
And I don't have the knowledge or the skills to implement that probably correctly, and I think it's nice.
It's not easy to do.
No,
it's not easy to do.
So yeah, back to this. I'm just importing a few things we're going to need.
Right, so I'm just kind of observing at the moment because I haven't used Hazura, so I'm not familiar with how you kind of query for data. So I'm just watching.
Yeah, it's similar to Graph CMS in the fact that you create your tables, your columns, your models, your relations, and it just gives you the GraphQL API out of the box.
Right,
that.
But they give you some kind of you've got some kind of client there that has a request method on it, right? And
so what I've shown you before, this function, it just uses GraphQL request.
Yeah.
So that's just a pretty fetch, basically. And obviously I'm exporting GQL from this file, so I can just do import GQL here instead of importing this as well every time in files. I don't know if that's necessary, or it's me just being, trying to be too fancy there, but it's one less import statement to write. So like I've done on the index page, what I'm thinking here is we've got to write a query, which will be like get members, and then this will be users. We can get the ID, and their name. We can't get the email from a guest or a user. That's
Right.
I think at the moment that's private. I do want to add a toggle to say whether your
Kind of
email
make
is
that
public.
private or not. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't show you the other thing as well, which is quite cool. And it'll help with what you're asking about storing the online status. So we have a function here, this component. Basically, it taps into the Next.js router or router, and then every time the route or the route changes, it makes a GraphQL mutation if they're logged in. If they're logged in, it sets when they were last seen, and it only does that if save last seen is true in the auth context. So for privacy, when you log in, you can choose.
Yeah.
So I may want to come online. I may want to log into the forum, but not
incognito.
Tell anyone here. Yeah, exactly. So it's quite nice.
Don't want to be harassed on that forum.
So yeah, back to the members page. Just a case of let's just grab all users' ID and names for now. We don't have anything for the avatar. We're just gonna have to use that SVG, and then let's do a stringify, and I'm going to call this initial data, and then like we did on the index page, we've got to export this get static props, and then we'll call this get members. I mean, it could be get users. I don't know if I should call the page users. I prefer the word members. Users is more like lower level.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's nice that I would in terms of naming that query, I would have that in line with the actual Hasura schema. So they call them users.
Yeah.
Makes sense to have get users.
Yeah, I think so.
But then that's a bit contradiction from your page path is members.
Yeah. So there'll be some REST people watching, and they'll be disgusted that it's not, we're not treating these as resources and naming everything accordingly. So inside of the page now, I have to destructure initial data.
So what are you doing? What are you doing here? So you're obviously using the get static props, function from Next.js, which will query for data at build time.
Yeah.
I also see you're using SWR.
Yeah.
Which is a client-side library for data fetching or data revalidation. So what's the thinking between using them both together?
Yeah. So call this get users. Basically, we run this query inside of get static props when the page is built, and then when the page loads on the client, we just make another request to update it. If we've built a page and 5 new users have joined, we obviously want those to show on the members page as well. So we'll kind of make a request on the client there. And
so you're getting the benefits of static compilation where it's fast.
Yeah.
And it's the data might be outdated. It might depend on when it was last built.
Yeah.
But then you get that kind of instant revalidation on mount here from SWR.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need that. I can't remember. I was using that, I think, on the index because when you create a thread and you go back, it doesn't necessarily trigger a refetch. I think that was why I used that. So I think if you took that out, it would still work. I'll just leave it.
Right.
I think that's what was going on there.
Well, we can easily test that.
Yeah. So users, I'm just going to go back to Hasura and go to graphical.
So because you've passed an initial data key to use SWR there, that maps to data. So you only have to use the data key in your component, right? So you don't have to juggle between initial data until the SWR calls kind of resolved. It's always just the data key that you care about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've used SWR. I'm using SWR as well, similarly to you, mostly for client side fetching, where we are dependent on, for example, we fetch data depending on the authenticated state of the user. So if they're authenticated, we only want to fetch data if they're authenticated. But then we'll fetch different data depending on their authorization. So if they've got an active subscription, they'll get different data to if they don't. And obviously that's not available at build time. So I've got to do that client side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can pass those variables in. You're not doing that here, but you can pass in a kind of a variable key, which will be passed down to your GraphQL query.
Yeah,
I've seen you do that somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I do it here.
Yeah.
Which it took me a while to understand what was going on here, because
Mm-hmm.
I thought these were the variables. I can't remember what I was confused about in the beginning, but I remember being really confused around this. This first argument is obviously just the key, and in the beginning I just had it as get thread by ID, but every time I switched threads, it was getting all messed up, and I was like, why is it doing that? I'm using it, but that ID, it kind of binds the query with the ID, so it's unique in the cache.
That's
And I was getting confused.
So that's essentially that's creating the like you said, it's creating the key for the cache. So it knows when the data revalidates, it knows what to update inside of the local cache.
Yeah, so I was a little bit confused when I first used SWR, why that was happening. But if you're using variables or the data's based on a variable, then you're going to need to pass it as an array, and then those are passed to the fetch function, so you can just destructure them accordingly and use them in the request here. I didn't know whether or not I could just do that, so it's query and then use ID here, but I think I run into problems there as well. So I'm not sure it's absolutely necessary, but I'm sure I did run into a problem. Otherwise, it's just a closure of the page, But yeah, back on this members page, if I refresh, save that, I'm just logging out data for now. We'll just add some space in there. So there we're getting all of the users in that's logged in. And I'm just ordering it by created at, descending. Maybe should change that. I don't know. Maybe we can add some kind of drop down in the future to filter. Change the order there.
Sort, yeah.
And pass that in. It might be.
It's good. That'll be a good excuse to use the headless UI. They've got a select.
Yeah.
They've got a select component now.
That'd be good. So there's comment as well here, SWR React query. Like we've just been talking about, we are using SWR on the client side. So we're making a fetch request statically. When it builds, we're making a request to Hasura to get our data. We're passing that down as initial data as a prop, and then on the client, we're kind of revalidating that query and updating the cache accordingly with data that's fresh. So the page will be stale and then it'll update, which is nice. But I did look at using React use query, but I don't know why. I just wanted to use SWR.
It's like,
I don't know.
Almost feels like it's built for Next.js.
Yeah,
I know of React queries, you can use it with Next.js. So I've not used it as well, but I have seen a lot of it. Gets a lot of love on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, I was using. I think at one point I switched to use Apollo client, but then I was like, maybe it's a bit overkill. I think there was a problem the way that I was doing it server side, and I didn't need the token, and then client side I did need the token. I was having some difficulties there, and I got it working in the end, but it just seemed overly complicated. Whereas here I have a single function called Hasura, which is my fetch function, and then when that runs, it just kind of passes the token in, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So on here we've just got a list of all of our members. So maybe it's now we could create a component, or we'll just create it raw for now, I guess, and then we can move it to a component. We'll just create a div here, and then we can loop through all of our users. So that'll be data.users, and then we can go from there. So I'll just do key equals ID. It's not post, it's user. And then we can just say user.name. We could destructure those. So teach me about CSS grid. Let's have a three call grid. Grid. So in Tailwind, it's very easy. It's just like grid calls or whatever. I think that would be what's going on.
Sorry, my dog's just come back from his walk.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Because I do have a comment that my mic is low.
I can hear you fine.
Okay. So we have a grid, I'm guessing. I will observe you.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yes, we should have. I've got no ID. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So, three call grid.
I think on mobile first it'll just be one.
Right. I'm not sure what breakpoint you're using throughout. Is it small, medium?
MD.
Yeah. Cool.
There we go. So that's
So so we've got a basic grid there, and then what you have with grid is you actually have kind of spacing both on X and Y axes. So it's if I remember these. So Tailwind recently changed them. They used to be like row gap and call gap, but now they've kind of brought them in line with the rest of the utilities.
Yeah.
To follow X and Y axes. Sorry, my girlfriend's hoovering in the background.
I still have we that my mic is my volume's low, but my mixer going in it's at the correct level, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But it seems okay.
Right. So we want to essentially have 4 units of spacing both on X and Y axes. Now, this because we're collapsing the grid on mobile, this is essentially redundant at that viewport size, because we'll only have one call grid, and they will stack. So that spacing is essentially redundant at that grid size, but it will apply at the medium breakpoint.
Right. Can you shorten that to like gap 4, like you can with other
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can just do gap 4, but obviously that you kind of get control if you wanted to just have a smaller
Yeah.
vertical spacing, for example, like so.
Yeah.
But that looks awful. So yeah. So if you kind of collapse your viewport there,
Yeah.
yeah, nice. I'm not even signed up yet.
Get signed up.
I should sign up. Well, I've got access to I've got localhost here, so
Well, you
yeah.
should.
So
Yeah, you should just be able to sign up, and then when I change focus, you'll just appear, right? Why don't we
let's
test that
try
out?
it. Sign it up right now. I'm signed up. I'm signed in.
There we go. All I did was refocus back on the window, and there you are.
Yeah. So with SWI, there's various options you can pass to the query to kind of it can revalidate. Essentially, you can set it up to poll, so it can revalidate
Yeah.
after a certain
Yeah.
amount of time. Pretty nice.
Yeah, it is. So just got a comment here that this is one of the best Next.js streams ever. Keep it up. See you later. Thanks very
Nice.
much. That's good. It's good that we're actually building something like from beginning to end, and it's not just, this is how you install whatever library, and it's just there you go. It's left to you. Here we're kind of building the full thing from beginning to end.
Well, you have.
Well, yeah. So it's been quite fun, doing that and sharing that, and sharing all of the kind of hiccups along the way, and how we get around that. So, I'm thinking for these, we just kind of display for now, very similar to what we're doing on the index page, where we've got avatar, name, and then last seen or when they joined below there. For now, and then we can make that a bit nicer. I'm not actually using. We're not using grid or anything here. We're just using Flexbox. I don't know if we would need to use. Would you recommend using grid instead of Flexbox for this, or would you say Flexbox is still better?
No, because
They're not going to stack.
I mean, although they're never going to be kind of. So I would use. Obviously, you can use Flexbox for a grid as well.
Yeah.
But I think the way grid shines is when you have. Where CSS grid shines is when you have a horizontal grid essentially, and then it might collapse to just a stack. So you get that consistent space and a consistent grid size based on the parent container as well. So you just got much more control over the size of columns as opposed to Flexbox, where essentially you'd be using like a fixed kind of percentage based width. So you can recreate that, but I just think the grid is designed for a grid, funnily enough, whereas Flexbox will kind of more control over element sizing within a parent, not necessarily for building a grid of components, as in this case.
Okay, sounds good. That issue.
But if you want,
that issue that you just said, that you just kind of reacted to, that was because the permissions for guest didn't allow you to fetch the created at field. I've enabled that, so
nice.
So
because you were filtering.
Yeah, I'm filtering, so that filter wasn't available because you can't query that field, so it's not even in the query, in the schema, which is cool. So like this, every schema is unique on the permission, so you only get the schema of all the fields and things you can query or mutate. It's not like everything's available and you just kind of access denied. It's it's adapted to your context. So I'm going to open the post component, and this one's a bit all over the place, so bear with it. inside of here. Author is not defined. We could just destructure these. Yeah. And then there.
Look at that.
Look at that. So we're saying hello to quite a few people. What we could do.
Well, I think we should add like a join thing. So I've
Yeah.
joined X whatever ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to do that, you're going to need the query for, I guess, the created at field on the user.
Yeah, that's enabled. That's enabled now. So I can just go ahead and inside of here import format relative, and then like you say, query created at. I'm going to just move that below name because visually that's how it is on the page. And that
I'm different. So so I'll order my fields alphabetically, but I always have ID first.
Yeah, I used to do that, and then I used to kind of group things between relationships and foreign keys and stuff. I used to group foreign keys. Yeah, we go through some. We just need like a prettier for that kind of thing that just does it, and it's like we shouldn't care about it. But I could spend hours just naming things and ordering things.
What does format relative return? How does it format the date?
You pass it in today, and then you pass in the time now, and you pass in the subject time and then today, and then I'm passing an extra thing for week starts on.
Right.
So
that's just the index.
I have to go in here.
I see. Okay.
And then it will be formatted. Or can you say joined? Whoops. Joined at. Don't know what's going on there. Oh yeah, you're typing as well. So what did you call that? Formatted at joined. I'm using use memo, so we're not recomputing that. I don't know if that's necessary for this page. But yeah, and then created at.
Is this valid? Because today's.
Yeah, today will just be.
It's not defined, right?
It's not defined. I'm just defining today.
Yeah.
Up here.
Just do new date.
Yeah, could just do that as well. I'll remove that. I just defined that time outside, so it wasn't redeclaring new date every time. I don't think we need to be as cautious with running that. I don't know. So save.
Right, yeah, so I see what you're saying. Yeah, use memo mightn't be defined. It's probably not imported.
Yeah. I'll import that.
Yeah.
Invalid time value.
Do you not need to date.parse?
Formatted created at, use memo, relative, date parse updated at, today. I'm just going to do this just because that's the only thing that's different. Invalid time value. Ah, I refreshed. I don't know what's going on there, but let's just try that again. Navigate. That works. Refreshing worked. So we can see you joined today at 12 minutes past 12. And then we can see the timestamps of who else has joined. And then if we shrink this down, maybe we could go 2 column. It's small.
And that.
Then mix it, and then yeah, default maybe 1, and then on small breakpoint we go 2. It's obviously my resolution as well is gigantic.
Yeah, well, what I do is instead of resizing the viewport like that, I use DevTools and then the device thing.
Yeah.
Generally get a better. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's looking good. I'm just trying to think about this badge now. Like the online badge.
Right.
To display whether or not they're online, we've got... let me just show you one other thing, which is quite cool. Last seen URL. I'm just going to put this... remove that and put this here.
I have to query for it. I did.
Destructure.
Might need a refresh. Should actually
destructure that.
Yeah.
There, so you can see
So
I'm at /members. So if I open another browser window and go here and go here, you can see it changes the thread. So
nice. That
would be cool in the future to display, and maybe it's an online users list, and that shows you where you are basically. So you know, I can say there, you know, edit and profile, and then home, and just replace that, have some kind of library or function rather that makes these look nice instead of just showing the actual path. So we're storing that, and again, we only store that path if you've agreed to share it.
Right, is that field stored on the session?
It's stored on the user. So if we
I mean, like the opt-in field.
It's just it's stored in the session in the local storage. We just store whether or not we track that. So it's kind of just a per login basis.
Right, but so how would that work in regards to, for example, if I was viewing the members list and you signed in but said you didn't want me to see you, how would then my session access that?
Well, we only update those fields.
Right. So if it was essentially undefined or null,
it's not going to send that request, so that when you were last seen and this last seen URL, those are saved on the user record.
Yeah.
And if you choose not to share it, then those will never, this kind of GraphQL mutation will never run. So you're fetching from the user profile, and that's constantly being updated every time users move around the app.
So those fields inside of Hasura would be essentially unset or null.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there would just be whatever you were last seen doing. So if I logged in today and I went to the /members, and then another day I came back and logged in, and I chose not to share it, my last seen would still be members.
Yeah. So just wondering if it's worth clearing that when you sign out. So if you killed your session.
Yeah. I don't know. I quite like that. That's when you were last seen. That regardless if you're logging as anonymous, you were last seen whenever you said you were there. So I don't know whether we should remove that or not, because to me, if I logged in today and then logged in tomorrow and said tomorrow I didn't want to be logged, well, the last time I was actually seen was yesterday, not then, because I've gone guest. I've gone incognito. So it's probably simpler, we leave it that way. and don't clear it. Otherwise, every night you could just run a cron on. You could run a scheduled event with Hasura to say, right, every night delete everything out this column.
Nice.
But it kind of removes the fact. Like for me, going back many, many years when I was on forums, and I used to look at the use last on scene field, and it could be, 3 days by the time this other person I'd been speaking to on the forum was last seen. And I would go back and I would see, he was last seen an hour ago, and it was just quite nice to know when people had been kind of hanging around, that you spoke to regularly or whatever. And then I don't know, maybe you don't need it in 2020, but we'll leave it there. So this is working. Maybe we could just prefix this with joined. I think that's quite good. I'm not hugely bothered about how this looks right now.
I'm just out of curiosity, I'm just gonna. This last seen field on users, right?
Yeah.
That'll be a date, correct?
Yes. It's an ISO screen.
Sorry?
No, it's not. You'd have to parse it.
Right, so it's
it's
Unix.
a timestamp with the time zone, so you'd have to do date.parse to use it.
Okay, so yeah. So then you could essentially say, what's that date? Which library are you using? Sorry, date functions.
Yeah.
So what would we look for in here to see if? So say if we wanted to say somebody was online.
Yeah.
What would we say? The last 10 minutes?
Maybe
Last
15,
20 minutes?
15, 20 minutes.
All right, so there's got to be a function here. Format time from. There's got to be a function available to actually figure out like the date from to now, essentially. Format the distance between the given date and now.
Yeah, probably.
I don't even need a format though. We just need the
I'm trying to think in Hasura. Are we able to? We could obviously pass in. Like if this was an online users list, we could structure the query exactly how you're describing, where it's like where last seen is greater than or equal to
right.
now, and less than equal to, well, that would be now, greater than would be from. That would work, but then you would only be returning the users that fit those parameters. Whereas we just want to say yeah.
Yeah, so there's a helper here in date functions called difference in minutes. So you can essentially pass this date from last seen and date now and say, and it'll return an integer. And then say if it's less than 20, show an online badge.
Yeah, that would work. So just do relative on this span. So
you add if you add the say like the markup for the little badge, and I'll add the
yeah,
I'll write the constant to actually check if they're online.
yeah.
What was that called? Difference in minutes.
I always forget with Tailwind, it's just top 0 and right 0. It's the only things in Tailwind I think they changed, and I still use the old naming, which I can't remember. I can't remember what it was, but it used to be something different. It wasn't top, I don't think.
What? Sorry.
The absolute position stuff for top, left, right, bottom. That used to be something different, I think, but maybe I don't know. It doesn't matter. Just looking at the Tailwind docs. Height. Rounded full.
Date left is essentially the later date, which will be the last seen.
I'm just going to comment your line out for 1 second.
I wrote in the build.
Yeah.
If you want to say difference in minutes is, or essentially you want to say 20.
Nope, that's not what I wanted, Jamie. Overflow hidden.
This is annoying. I thought we could both type.
Yeah, I think undo just obviously.
Okay.
Store events and then undo the last event.
All right, but that's not right.
How am I going to do this?
So it's returned a negative integer, which suggests if we just switch these values around. Oops. Yeah, positive integer. So then if all right, so you got I mean, I don't know how you want to do this. I'll follow the similar format of this.
Mm-hmm. Ah.
Sorry. Rebuild. Comment.
Ah. I've never had so much trouble adding a...
Everybody's got your face now.
It's because I was using a span before, and I can't undo. I can't undo what I've done without undoing your work. Ah, this is annoying.
Well, I can just cut and paste.
Yeah, you got that.
Yeah. This is just weird. Yeah. If anyone from VS Code's watching, please
Fix this.
have like vents localized so you can undo your own work, not everyone else's. Like a history of your local activity.
What? Right, so we're back to what we had originally, I think. I've never had so much trouble showing a little badge, ever. It's because I'm using this span for the
With all this
avatar.
technology, man, it's the issue lies with
There, what is going on?
CSS.
Is it the heist?
There must be a component on Tailwind.
There we go. Let's just make... I don't have the kind of the point. Like 0.1.
All right.
So I'll just do minus margin right 2 minus margin top 2.
Ooh, too far. 1 unit. All right. So then if I
Maybe
drop my stuff back in, I think that's fine. That position there.
Yeah, I'll leave that as
Without any margin. So then you just kind of rendered more hooks than during the previous render.
Don't know, but there we go. Sweet. We got a little green badge. Looks good.
Nice.
I think the position is a bit off.
What do you mean?
This span.
You think?
Imagine. That needs to be flex as well, doesn't it?
I see.
And then justify center. What's the order of this? Maybe I'm just seeing things.
Nah, he was right before, man. Yeah.
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 Cool. Sweet. Well.
Yeah. Nice.
Also thinking about renaming it to Jamstack BB as well. I'm not sure whether or not I didn't want to go with Jamstack in the name. But it's better than your suggestion or Hans or whatever it was.
Jamboree, it's great.
Jamboree, yeah. I don't know. Maybe we should add polls as a feature, and we can create a poll.
Hey, it's another question.
Yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in. How are we planning to handle the user's profile image? Good question. I have no idea. I have no idea. I kind of like. Ooh. I like these SVGs. Yeah. So as it stands, we are using Hasura to store all of our data. We can obviously add another field on the user to store the URL to our image, and we can we could add some kind of upload functionality to upload to. I'm not going to say S3 because it's just going to overcomplicate things here. It's a shame there isn't kind of just a dedicated service. This is probably where using something like Auth0 would help, because they would handle that for us. Getting it from a social profile.
Right. I was just about to ask, does Hasura not have social sign-in?
No, Hasura doesn't deal with authentication at all. It's up to you to implement, and they just provide the APIs to act as users.
All right.
So we could use Auth0. I originally didn't because I wanted to keep everything to a minimum, keep all the services we're using and the code we're using to an absolute minimum. But when it comes to this avatar stuff, I don't know, maybe we could we could just implement some kind of endpoint to upload avatars, and then those save somewhere. I'll have to think about that. For the time being, we could just make these initials as well. We could just add a color to the profile. Maybe you can specify what color badge you want. And I think earlier on I was actually thinking about just pick an emoji, and that emoji is yours, make it unique or something. I don't know.
This is why I kind of like Firebase for this, because you get this social stuff out of the box.
Yeah.
But you don't get half as much control that Hasura will give you in terms of well, that's a lie. So you can build, obviously, you can use Firestore to build a database and things. However, in my experience, and albeit limited, it's not as seemingly powerful as Hasura, or at least easy to use as Hasura seems to be, in terms of building out a database schema and the associated permissions and everything like that. So I do like Tailwind Auth for that, because you can just add one-click social sign-in really easily.
Firebase
Is that, what did I say?
Tailwind Auth.
Tailwind Auth.
You've gave away that new feature.
Shit. Sorry, yes. Firebase Auth.
Yeah. I would default to use that, but then I feel like if I'm going to use Firebase Auth, I may as well just use the Firestore to handle all the data.
Yeah. Definitely don't. I wouldn't recommend trying to juggle Firebase Auth and then Hasura.
Yeah. It's not impossible. It's just it's way more complicated than it needs to be. What would be helpful here is something like GraphCMS, where we could use assets we could upload assets. So once we've got the control over permissions, we can just upload assets to a Graph CMS project, and that would be the avatar. I feel like that's what Hasura is missing, is those uploads. But they probably don't want to do that because that's not what they deal with. I mean, they might have it. I've just never looked.
I'm just going to lower my desk, so I'm going to mute my mic so you don't hear that whirring.
Yeah, I don't think Hasura has any kind of upload functionality. But yeah, we will get back to that upload functionality at some point. For now, though, maybe we just make it your initials for now in a color.
That's like the de facto SaaS way of doing things.
Yeah. So
when you don't have.
So here's the thing. I'm no longer online, but I have just refreshed the page. So I haven't updated the value in the DB because I'm not changing the route.
Right.
So I didn't think of that before. That's quite interesting. Little.
There must be. So what would that be? The next router API?
Yeah.
Events.
There's only 3.
Change. Yeah.
Or would before history change? Obviously, that happens before the history is written. So would that happen for us? Like,
I don't know if a refresh is changing the browser's history.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. I'm sure somebody else will have.
Doesn't add it.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's an interesting little hidden thing I didn't notice, but I don't think it's that critical, but it's not a true reflection of when they were last seen. So the only other way would be to what I didn't want to do, which is inside of last seen, is use set interval, and every 60 seconds hit the DB. I didn't want to do that because if I change browse tabs or whatever, it's still going to be working, still going to be running, and I'm not really online. I'm doing something else. I think I've got a couple of minimized windows with like 80 tabs open, and one of them could be the forum. I don't want to be constantly updating that because I'm not active. So obviously I think we'll just skip. We don't need to solve that today, but that's something which may need looked at. If I go to profile, back to members, I'm online now because I've changed routes, Oh well. So my watch has just told me to stand, so I'm obviously not standing correctly.
You're standing wrong.
Standing wrong. Okay, well, let's leave it at this. Is there anything else you would add to this, or do you think these need more spacing? What did you do?
Line 52.
Gap X, gap Y.
Maybe some more. I'd say more. Yeah, more vertical spacing. That looks better. Ooh, I would never use odd. Yeah, 8.
8. Yeah, cool. And then we can add pagination, and we can add some kind of sort when we get onto that. But pagination is still something we need to address. I haven't even got an issue for that. But, yeah. Cool. Well, let's get this, create a branch. I'm just going to add everything. I know you would hate me. I know you hate me. Do you get this as well? This has just started happening recently. Every time I used to branch off, it used to set the remote upstream for me, but it doesn't do it anymore.
That's weird. I think you can set a default.
Yeah. So that's deploying now. That preview is deploying. So once this is done, we'll get that merged up, and then I may stream. May not stream later today. May take a break and come back tomorrow and continue. Hasura have a hackathon that's ongoing right now, which I'm taking part in. So if you stream in the month of October or up until the 19th, you can enter it in. I think this ticks all the boxes. Yeah, our mission is we want to enable people to talk about Jamstack. I just made that up. We'll merge that. And then at jamstackforum.com, we will be able to see the members list. And there we go. How cool is that?
Nice.
You didn't leave any console logs in, did you? No. I didn't check the code. I just
I didn't even get. I wouldn't have even gotten a contribution there for that commit.
What happens
You
if
stole my commit?
What if you? That would be interesting. If you try to commit something, like if you change something on file now and try and commit it, let's see what happens.
Yeah, terminals read only.
Ah.
Hang on, I've requested rewrite access. This could be potentially disastrous for you. I could just like completely destroy your machine.
Yep. RMF.
Yeah,
RM, RF, tilde.
RF.
Don't do it.
Yeah. I'm just going to delete that. Let me see. Let me just change something. I'll change the color of this. All right. So I think I'm probably using your... Yeah, it's going to be using your Git credentials.
Yeah.
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 Ooh. All right. Never mind. So if you win the hackathon thing, I kind of want to take like 2% because of my contribution.
2%, yeah. Sure. I'll send it in the mail. Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining.
Sure. Had fun.
We'll do it again. And maybe we'll record our podcast episode and do that live as well at some point. So
But we had a podcast.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for anyone that has joined in today. This has been part 20 of building a forum with Jamstack. We'll be building throughout the month of October every single day. I will be streaming. We're using Next.js, GraphQL, Hasura, and a bunch of other tools in the Jamstack space to recreate some forum software. So join in, have fun, and hopefully we all learn something. Until next time, happy coding.
Thanks so